Hello, everybody. Oh, it's weird me doing the intro. I don't like it. Jay, I've got immediate regrets.
I did think it was, you're like, can I do the intro this time? Or shall I do the intro this time so that you can do but you're doing a good job. Come on, you can do it.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome to Send Better Emails. Today, as part of our new look rebrand, all killer, no filler approach, we're going to jump straight into another topic that has come out of the various tests that we're always running at the Inbox Club. And this time it was one of Jamie's discoveries, which is why I'm opening the podcast. And then I'm going to hand over to Jamie, who's going to fill us in on what exactly he's observed and what the significance of that is. Jamie,
Right.
I hereby pass on the baton to you.
Nice hosting, mate. I like it. Do you want to do it every week? How are you feeling?
Let's not get carried away.
Okay,
Come on.
fine.
What have you observed, Jamie?
So what have I observed? So I've observed that pretty doesn't always mean better. Now, this isn't a new revolutionary thing that we've discovered and will kind of trademark, but it's something that we've been testing recently to draw our own conclusions on. And the bottom line is that over-designed, super pretty emails don't always win. There's one particular case study here that I will talk about, and then maybe, me and James, me and you can just vibe off that and kind of draw some conclusions on this. But one in particular is where for a home decor, home lighting brand that we manage at e-commerce, we manage their email marketing, and we planned in for January a plain text email, note from the founder, and the reason we wanted to do that was because we send quite a lot of campaigns for them in terms of frequency, and that sector, that industry, is kind of classic for always, there's always some kind of sale on, and so we need to find some way to break through the noise a little bit, and images of their beautiful products are super important, but sometimes you just need something on a different wavelength. And so we tested this out. We sent a plain text email from the founder, who also is, it's a family run business, so she's a member of the family, talking about how there's only a bit of time left on this sale, a bit of the story about it, very kind of personal, authentic. That email, it would be great if I could say it was the best performing email in January. Unfortunately, it was the second best performing email, but still pretty good. Out of 20 campaigns that were sent, not all of these 20 campaigns went to the whole list or to their engaged. I think we do 90 day or something. So, a few of those would have been segmented campaigns, but still, second best performing. And compared to the average for that month, it got twice as many clicks, and it got generated twice as much revenue as well as the average. So really powerful. And I think this isn't a new thing that we've been testing. We've always done this to some degree, right? We've always said in general that, we don't want to over design or use too many images for many reasons. But I think we should focus, because we're trying to keep these snappy, on just how sending a plain text email is more authentic, how people resonate with it more, and it helps break up the noise a little bit. In the last episode, nice. I was talking about how we were sending out invites to an event for a company. We manage their email marketing for them. When we send out invites to events, again, we do it plain text from a person, makes it feel more exclusive, more authentic, and those always perform really well. Now we've just adopted that approach for their event invites going forward, because we know it works better. So, James, have you got any recent examples, or from your mind, like, why do you think these plain text emails are working better than overly super branded, highly designed emails?
I think for me, the big reason is that the emails that people tend to read and reply to are plain text emails, right? Like, they're not designed. There's almost an association now. And again, I think it's important for email marketers to give credit to the recipients. And I don't think email marketers do that enough. And I think one, similar to the boring subject line piece, where maybe recipients are starting to see through the marketing lingo and the clickbaity subject lines that a lot of email marketers are using, so too is there now this association with a really good looking email and the fact that you're going to get sold to. If you get an email from your colleague or your grandma, it's going to be plain and boring. And so I think aligning with the emails that people are most likely to engage with, i.e. emails that are sent for genuine communication reasons rather than promotional reasons, there's definitely something to be said about that. But I also wanted to pose a question to you, Jamie, just for the sake of a devil's advocate position. Let's imagine that the brand that you cited earlier only ever sent plain text emails, and then one day they decided to send a really nice looking, beautifully designed email. Do you think that the odd one out there, the beautiful email, would have reported back similar results as the plain one has here? Is this because of the fact we're disrupting from the norm, or is it because it's plain text?
Sorry to give you a politician's answer. It's probably a bit of both. Because breaking the rhythm and sending something different is always a good thing for me. I think there's a health warning here, because this brand, sells kind of home lighting, mirrors, wall art, all that kind of stuff. Products where you really want to show off the design, you really want to show some product imagery off, and so I think it is important to have in our rhythm plenty of that. And this plain text thing, I think it's a surgeon's knife approach. It's almost like a sniper rifle approach. We're very carefully selecting where we're going to use a plain text email, where it's going to have the most impact. And so a really great place for plain text emails is in a welcome series, in your abandonment, various abandonment series, in your post-purchase. Another example, so a garden brand selling barbecues, pizza ovens, fire pits, etc. We put the first email in their post-purchase series was a note from the founder, and what we wanted to put that in there, not as an upselling technique in the first instance, but as because there's quite high value items to forestall any sense of buyer's remorse. So it's like, here, from the founder, thank you for purchasing. This is my email address. Get in touch if you've got questions or problems. This is a bit about our story, a bit about me, etc., etc. So that email again performs well. It generates revenue, even though it doesn't. It's not targeted at upselling directly. And so I think where we say, okay, let's use plain text, I'm not saying definitely don't adopt it all the way across your email marketing, although if there's a brand out there that would allow us to do that, to test that, I would love to try that one day. But, we don't want the design to cover up the message. And sometimes that's what can happen. We want the message to be super clear. And there's also a professionality element here as well. You want your brand to look professional and look legit, and so it is important to have some branding in there. Otherwise, people are thinking, "Oh, what's this janky email I've just got from the brand I've just spent $1,000 with?" Like, are they a real company? So there is a bit of that, I think, in play here. I didn't really answer your question, James, but I think there is something about breaking the rhythm and doing something different that contributes to it here. But also, I think a lot of it is about where we want to send a message that needs to get a lot of cut through, a really vital point in the customer journey. Plain text and authentic can be the way to go.
I do also just want to flag accessibility here, which is something that we talked about on this podcast.
You love accessibility.
Before we have I do. I did, guilty as charged. We have a whole episode dedicated to this, but it's, whenever you're sending a plain text email, you're ticking all the boxes from an accessibility and a deliverability perspective, right? Both of those things super important. So, your email is by default going to be adaptable on dark mode devices. It's, any internet server is going to be able to read it and convert it to voice if needed. And it's not going to suffer from being too big. You're going to get fewer bounces. You're going to reach primary inboxes you're more likely to reach primary inboxes. No guarantees, of course. So for all of those reasons as well, I think it can engage people on your list for the first time, which is also another really interesting consideration when factoring in these outsized results that we get, because actually a big reason for that might be, well, perhaps every email you've sent up until then has been going into a promotions folder or has been bouncing because, you know, the recipient settings don't allow for emails that have a certain number of images in them, or, you know, all of these things can mean a plain text email is actually the first email from you that a recipient actually reads, which is great. You know, then you've got a new engaged contact. So I think that's a really strong point. And it's no coincidence that some of the biggest brands in the world, some of the most visual brands in the world, you could argue, like you think of Nike, their emails are incredibly boring to look at. You know, they're mostly black and white. There's usually one image thrown in there, and that's it. You know, a black and white button, perhaps. They are boring, as in quote unquote boring. They're minimal. They do what's required, and
Intentional.
You know, I think the biggest intentional's very nice. I think the argument that we sometimes have to win as an agency is talking to these brands who put a huge amount of stock into their visual identity and who just will not budge when it comes to how their emails look, and you almost have to treat your emails as a separate visual asset to your landing pages, your website, your socials, etc. Because you will be reaching members of your audience that your typical emails don't.
Nice, cool. I think the only other thing I wanted to say here is that, you know, I said about how, you know, using plain text emails for the most important marketing messages. You know, I think you could challenge me on that and say, well, of course they perform well because they're your most important marketing messages. They always will. But the point here is that is the difference between sending either or, you know, the design template or the plain text. And so maybe the takeaway here, or the takeaway is, try it for yourself. Next time you're wanting to send some kind of email that you think, okay, well, this one's a good one and one that I'm expecting to perform well, I'm going to 50% of the list that I was going to send it to, I'm going to send them a plain text version of it. If you've got an audience that trends over 40, they will probably thank you for a plain text email, by and large. You know, no color contrasting to fight with. You know, different inbox providers will you know, mess around with your email design. You need none of that to contend with. It'll look great on mobile and desktop with very minimal effort, you know, all of these things. And actually, it just takes less time to put together as well. So I'm not saying my takeaway here isn't plain text every single time. It's put it in your arsenal to use. It's a tool that you'll want to use going forwards in your email marketing mix.
Yeah, we've seen it work, and it could work for you. I've got nothing else to add.
Nice. Okay. No, I haven't either. So yeah, thanks for listening. Test it for yourself. See how you go.
Yeah. How do you think my hosting debut went?
Let's let the fans decide.
Okay. Yeah. Good idea.
Let us know.
All right. We'll A/B test James versus Jamie.
Yeah. You're the boring version.
Yeah. I'm the plain text.
You're your plain text. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.